Hey everybody, James Yeager, Tactical Response. Thanks for watching. Once again, I appreciate you guys. If you want to help the channel out, go over to patreon.com/James Yeager. If you like these tips and you think I'm helpful, I'd really appreciate your helping me out. Let's talk about fire safety because when things go bad and, like I say, the power grid shuts down or whatever the case may be, there's going to be a whole lot more fires being used for cooking or other things, lanterns, lamps, candles, things like that. And so I want to talk about fire safety. This is just in general, but maybe even before the zombies attack, this will be helpful for you. But I believe that if we look at the things that have happened in the past, Chicago fire, cow kicked over a lantern, and burnt the whole fucking town down. And so smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. And I have some in storage. They're still in the box, or not being used because those things have a shelf life. And so what I would recommend is that you have some. The carbon monoxide detector, I keep one of those. Sometimes I use a buddy heater, a propane heater in a tent in the wintertime. And I keep one of those in the tent with me. I mean, the buddy heater has a low oxygen sensor shut off, but I don't want to die in a tent because of carbon monoxide poisoning, so I keep one in there. So think about, like it's potentially that you keep a carbon monoxide detector in your bug out kit. I mean, potentially, if you're going to heat inside of a tent. So anyway, fire extinguishers, of course, all kinds of fire extinguishers, and the antique fire extinguishers that you pump up. If you can find some of those that are in working order, that you can refill with baking soda and stuff like that, they're reusable. Yeah, that'd be handy. That'd be really handy. Fireballs. There are these things you can buy them on the. I have a lot of this stuff listed in my Amazon shop. But imagine a thing about the size of a bowling ball that's got like a cover over it and a fuse around it, and then inside the shell is gunpowder or some kind of explosive and fire extinguisher powder. So the fuse catches. Boom! This thing explodes. You can see videos of it on YouTube, and so it's like a automated fire extinguisher. And it only goes off in a fire. And so I have several of those. If you guys got like a pile of ammo in your house, you might want to put a couple of fireballs in and around that ammo. So if there's a fire, things like that. But certainly having something. This is as close as you'll have to an automatic fire extinguisher or sprinkler system, but it only will work with a fire. So I'm a big fan of them. They're not really cheap. They're not very expensive, but they're not cheap. But I feel like they're quality, and I feel like they're worth the trouble, worth the effort. Sand. Have some buckets of sand around to throw on a fire. It's worked for a long time. Also wool blankets. Synthetic blankets don't do well. They actually will sometimes catch on fire themselves. But a wool blanket, again, on my Amazon store, I've got some wool blankets. I bought several of them. There's one that's around $60 that's really nice, and there's one that's like $29 that's almost as nice but costs half as much. And so that's the one I have on the store. And but wool is great. It's the best natural fiber. All synthetic fibers wish they were wool. Wool is a whole nother story. Wool is great, but a wool blanket will smother a fire, and there's other like a cotton one will too, but you'll ruin your blanket. Wool, it takes a good beating, and then baking soda, but you might need that baking soda for baking, so be careful there. So let's talk about how not to have a fire. Lanterns, the Dietz number 76 is the best lantern. It's metal glass with a cage on it, and it's a really good lantern. And they're not very expensive. They're not very expensive at all. You need to get spare wicks for it. Think about what you're going to have to make with the zombies, and I don't want to have to make a wick. What would you make a wick? I mean, I know they're just like cotton fiber, but like I don't want to make. I want it. Clear fluid. Store clear lamp fluid. It's that simple. And think about using this stuff. Maybe start using it a little bit, but you're going to need like a small funnel so you don't spill your fluid, because now if I spilled some fluid, it's a big deal when there's no more fluid in the world if you spill it. So think about that. Solar lights. Think about lights like motion detector lights and stuff, that you can get for outside. but use those inside. So you might need to take them out every day and let them recharge. Then you can take them back in. So I'm relying heavily on solar powered rechargeable lights. Trust me, I got the lanterns and all that stuff, but I'm relying heavily on the solar because I don't want a house fire. Think about it. I mean, like when there's no backup supply and your stuff's in your house, your guns, your ammo, your food, and if that catches on fire, that's devastating. And so we want to prevent that. So avoid candles, anything that can be knocked over and start a fire, like open candles, like no. You shouldn't be using them, or the old school lanterns that are glass with the glass thing on top, with no protective metal around it, just something that could be knocked over. Like, no, avoid those things. Avoid those things. That's horrible things can happen. I mean, like if you go into Cracker Barrel, they've got those glass ones, but they have them bolted to the table so they can't be knocked off, because if one of those fire and flame, and not good at all. So that's my phone, not yours. So people don't know not to call me when I'm doing a video. That's not nice of them. But think about how you're going to have some energy. And the Dietz, I think they even make a thing you can put on top of it to use it to warm food up. But think about fire prevention, fire extinguisher, smoke alarms, carbon. Like, think about it. You should have all that stuff going on right now. But think about having some of those in your zombie kit, your bug out bags, whatever whatever makes sense, because with the increased use of fire for cooking and all that, I just see there being a whole lot more fires, and there won't be a 911. There won't be, like that's why they had bucket brigades back in the day, to get water to the house. But we just want to avoid that altogether, and it's another reason why you should have, don't put all your eggs in one basket, kind of a thing. Well, I hope you got a little bit of something out of this. Start thinking about safety, because there will be no hospitals. There will be none of that stuff. So we want to avoid any of that nonsense as much as possible. This is James Yeager for Tactical Response, reminding you that your responsibility to be ready for the fight never ends.